Women have never been more prolific or influential in the Australian legal industry, and for many, it's a labour of learning and sacrifice. But does that mean we need to do it alone? Not anymore. This podcast by the Mentor Institute will unlock the potential of women in the workplace by tapping into the incredible experiences of successful professional women. Our founder, legal entrepreneur Val Pitt, believes mentoring is about embracing the success of a few to breed the success of many. She created the Mentor Institute to link with those who want a mentor and those who want to be a mentor in a new and unique platform for leadership. So, join your host, Jade Toomey, as she chats to sophisticated women across the country and meet the legal ladies, some of the most inspiring women in law.
Kate Dillon is more than just your average corporate lawyer. Not only has she passed the bar in New York to practice fashion law, but she's also the CEO and creative director of her own hugely successful business. She Lion began when Kate noticed corporate women didn't have good quality handbags that were both practical and stylish, and so began her journey towards empowering women in law by saying yes to her creative streak. We talked to Kate in Melbourne, and she's just about to pop with her second baby on the way. No doubt she's got plenty of wisdom to share about how she got where she is and the mentors who helped her along the way. Kate Dillon, more than just your average corporate lawyer. Kate, we're here with you and your bub who's almost ready to pop.
Yes.
Can I just get a bit of a rundown about what exactly an innovation strategy lawyer is, which is your current role at Gilbert and Tobin?
Yes, in fact, it's actually changed again. I'm now a transformation lawyer and a G&T Innovate consultant because the team has recently restructured. So previously I was the only innovation strategy lawyer in the firm. And then now we've restructured and we have more of a transformation team. I'm now the sole transformation lawyer, but we have a group of legal transformation managers who are ex-lawyers or specialise in LPM and report to Karen, who's the Chief Innovation and Knowledge Officer.
And so why is there such a need for innovation in law?
I think because the industry is just changing so much. There's obviously been a massive change in how we work. Technology has totally changed the game. I remember starting articles and we still used fax machines and received letters. There was email, but it wasn't like it is now. And now everybody has, 24/7 access. And I think clients aren't willing to pay for lawyers who aren't tech savvy to spend hours and hours of time doing things when there could be better ways of doing things that could potentially be automated, or they just need to be more tech savvy generally and have a better understanding of Word and Excel and shortcuts in email if it's as basic as that. And then on top of all of that, there's generally a change, I think, in how we work culturally in Australia off the back of the rise in technology and off the back of this push from clients. And then all these startups now and all these different types of law firms are creating all this new competition. So now there's a real push to be working differently too. And all of that is putting pressure on the way lawyers work. So I think there is a lot of appetite for transformation and capability and innovation becoming a lot more of a focus in a law firm environment. And I think law firms generally are a bit slower than most other industries. So there's even more of a push because it's a bigger step up the curve, I think.
And given that there's this increased pressure for people to work differently and change things up a little, what role is mentoring there to play? And how much guidance do you think we can get from mentoring to deal with this changing climate?
I think it's fundamental, absolutely fundamental. I think the best way that you learn how to adapt is by being able to have an amazing support network and people you can draw upon who have knowledge who've either transitioned in a similar way or have dealt with change in a similar environment and who are able to give you some of their lessons. And whether or not you're able to actually take those lessons on board is another thing, but the fact that you're able to hear another person's account and get some guidance is unbelievably helpful in pretty much all cases, I would have thought.
As someone who has yourself dealt with a lot of change and, a fairly diverse career background, How did you go from a lawyer, someone formerly, I think, at Ashurst, to the founder and co-director of She Lion, a handbag and accessory brand?
Lots of support, an amazing family, an amazing husband, and a lot of mentors, to be honest. You make a decision like that on an eyelash because it's obviously quite a big decision, and you're not sure, but you have to back yourself. And I think you need to follow your heart. As much as you use your head as a lawyer, you need to bring in that empathy piece and really understand yourself. And I have been a closet creative for a very long time. So I really needed that outlet, and starting She Line was the most fantastic move. Definitely hasn't been easy, and it's probably harder to run a business than it is to practice as a lawyer. And I think I've probably learnt more running my own business the last 4.5 years about myself and life and intellectually than I have in all of the study I've done as a lawyer. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. But I think it's the sort of thing that you have to speak to a whole lot of people when you make the decision, but you've just got to back yourself, essentially. But having some mentors in different areas with different capabilities and different viewpoints is really fantastic to help you make an informed decision.
So what sort of mentors did you have when you were making that endeavour?
So initially I was thinking about leaving law entirely and going into fashion, and I had female friends that I was soundboarding that off, because you sort of get to the 6 years of being a billable lawyer and decide whether or not you're going to really gun for the partnership track, or whether you go in-house, or whether you want to do something entirely different. And I was sort of playing with those possibilities and had always been really interested in fashion, hence doing the New York bar exam and going to New York because they had fashion law. But it didn't work out that way because the GFC happened and my husband's qualification wasn't recognised. And so we ended up coming back to Australia. But that's where the interest in fashion had always been there. And then someone had said very wisely, why don't you have 50 coffees with 50 people in roles that you find interesting, and you buy the coffee and you approach them, ideally through someone you know, but absolutely possibly cold, and most of them were cold, and ask them if they would be willing to spend 15 minutes with you. Will you buy them a coffee because you're really interested in their role and how they got to that level and the journey that they took, and any advice that they'd be willing to give to you. And that was a hugely fantastic learning curve and experience. And I think through doing that, I kind of formed the view that I wanted to start my own label, and then coincidentally was struggling with trying to find a handbag, and then was talking to a whole lot of other lawyers and women in business about whether that was a problem for them, and started doing this research as I was speaking to all these other people who weren't in law, and that's when the business concept formed.
And did you do those 50 coffees with those 50 people?
Yes, I think I did 42.
So nearly. But what was that like, kind of cold calling these people who, whose brains you wanted to pick? And I mean, how would you tell other people to go about that if they're seeking a mentor or some sort of guidance in law or out of law?
I think it's a fantastic thing to do. I cold called a few. I was more cold email, to be honest, but depending on how effective the email was, you would sometimes follow up with a phone call. But most often people are really flattered that someone has approached them and thinks that what they've done or where they are is really impressive and wants to learn from them and know more about their journey. So people are amazingly generous. And I think that you don't realise that until you put yourself in that vulnerable position, because it is obviously, you've got to be ready for someone to say, no, I don't have time, or thanks, but I'm not interested. And you do get a few of those people, but by and large, like I reckon 85-90% of people are very willing to meet with you if you're willing to flex to meet their schedule.
And so what would your message be to other women about mentoring, either if they were trying to seek out a mentor or be a mentor themselves?
It happens organically, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with also asking if someone might be willing to guide you. And I think that the reward from mentoring someone else is so great. It's just such a wonderful thing to do as well. It's a great way to give back, and I'd highly recommend approaching and or providing guidance to other people. I now get approached a fair bit, and I try to meet up with as many people as I can that have reached out, and and then you have a whole lot of organic relationships where you just find yourself in that sort of position, and it's really lovely.
So the whole drive behind the Mentor Institute is to establish an online platform that kind of connects mentors and mentees because, as you said, both of these roles are just as rewarding as the other. What do you make of a platform like the Mentor Institute?
It's brilliant. It makes it easy. It's like it takes all the awkwardness out of it, I suppose. If you're someone who's not comfortable asking, or if you've got an organic relationship and you're not sure that you're able to get that type of advice from that person, but you'd like it to move that way, that's a fantastic way of facilitating something to happen officially in an easy environment for both parties.
Yeah, 100%. And you said as well that you are often, requested to be a mentor and people will reach out to you a lot these days. What's a piece of career or personal advice that you find yourself giving out quite a lot?
I think it's the same piece of advice that I've been given, which I share. It basically is that you can do anything you set your mind to. If you work hard enough, anything's possible. And you are going to get no's, but don't accept no. Keep going. It's all about persistence, and you'll get there. If you want it, you'll get there. And it really just is about persistence. It's about picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and trying again. Because nobody wins the first time unless they're really, really lucky. And usually you fail lots of times. So it's about being able to adapt and learn and move forward and keep going.
It's kind of vulnerable whenever you get a no to try and pick yourself up again. How did you deal with, any sense of self-doubt that you might not get there?
I have that now. I still have that now. You just have to bring yourself back to a grounding place and sort of give yourself a bit of a shake and say, hang on, that's that stupid voice that you shouldn't be listening to, and I can do this, and these are all the things I've done, and this is just another obstacle, and I'm just going to work out how I can get around it. And my husband always tells me that I hate him saying, how do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time. So anything can feel really overwhelming, but if you break it down into pieces, you can always work out your way through it. And I think it's about being a bit more glass half full about things. And as easy as that is to say, it's also about having some time to yourself and making sure that you've got some outlets so that you can recalibrate, like having the ability to do some exercise or meditate or spend time with your family or draw or whatever it is that makes you feel like more comfortable in yourself and brings you back to your centre. I think that's important because obviously when you're taking on new things, you're always going to feel vulnerable at some point. But to be able to keep reiterating to yourself that anything's possible and you can do this and you just have to have another go.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It's really wonderful.
You've been listening to Legal Ladies with Kate Dillon. We'll have another sophisticated and inspiring legal lady next month on the Mentor Institute.